Hey, Bobby, what's the word, my guy? It's
You.
been a minute since it's just been like you and me, just the two of us. It's
Yes,
your boy,
sir.
Big Bro. We got Bobby in the building, and today we are talking about Hall of Fame inductees. We got Dirk Nowitzki, we got D Wade, we got Paul Gasol, we got Becky Hammond, we got Popovic, and a few other coaches. We're gonna talk about all those guys and what they mean to us and to the greater NBA landscape right after the intro.
Thank you for tuning in to the number one place for your basketball fix, NBA Central, hosted by the Cognac Boys.
What's good, NBA basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central. It's your boy, Big Bro. We got Bobby in the building. Right off the bat, don't forget to rock with the rest of the Central family. Along with NBA Central, we got Chicago Bears, Bulls, White Sox and Cubs, Blackhawks, coming soon, Chicago Fire, Chicago Sky, and of course, we got the Shy Bulls podcast with the Cognac Gang, Bobby and C Dub. And listen, guys,
Yes,
if y'all
sir.
missed it earlier, C Dub did his thing on a live call of the first Bears preseason game. They got the
Yes,
W.
sir.
They scored 2 tutties with the first team offense. If y'all missed
Hey.
it, go ahead, check that video out over on Chicago Bears Central. All right, it's your boy, Big Bro, man. My boy Steve O is on PTO. Don't worry
Hey.
about where he at. Don't worry about what he doing. But listen, man, it's the class of 2023 Hall of Fame, my dude. And low key, we got two former Chicago Bulls on the list, Bobby.
Hey.
Two former Chicago Bulls on the
Yes,
list, man.
sir.
So we got Gene Best, Gary Blair, Pau Gasol, Becky Hammond, David Hickson, Gene Katie, Dirk Nowitzki, Tony Parker, Greg Popovich, Jimmy V, Jim Valvano, and D Wade, and of course the 1976 U.S. Women's Olympic team. Now we're not gonna pretend like we know everything about everybody on this list, but I know that myself, Bobby, the rest of the gang over here on NBA Central, we spent a lot of time watching Pau Gasol, Dirk Nowitzki, and Tony Parker, Becky
Mm-hmm.
Hammond as well. And for myself, I'm very familiar with Gene Katie, former coach of the Purdue Boilermakers. So we just gonna start with Pau Gasol. How you feeling about your man from Spain, the Spaniard, Pau Gasol?
Man, when I look at Paul Gasol, I think he was one of those pioneers that came in for that stretch five.
Mhm.
At least just one of them. You know what I'm saying? Early on in his career, you didn't see too much of it, but as his career went on and as the game began to change, you seen that Paul Gasol was one of those guys that was able to stretch the floor. He was able to go ahead and do a little bit of everything. He came in with the tenacity and really represented for European basketball. And quite frankly, that's something that I think about when we look at today's NBA. When you look at a guy like Luka Doncic, you know what I'm saying? You say, hey, you came in from Europe. You kind of changed your game to just kind of model what James Harden did in type of US basketball thing. But if you really go ahead and stick to your core values like what Paul Gasol did, you will be one of the greatest basketball players in the NBA because Paul Gasol was able to pass, was able to defend, was able to give solid performances on defense, was able to rise to the occasion next to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bean Bryant and perform and help Kobe win championships with a S. Not one, but with a S. You know what I'm saying? Paul Gasol was definitely one of those bigs that you look at and was like, God, Lee, that's one of the big men that I want on my team for sure. So shout out to Paul Gasol. Definitely love that he is inducted into the Hall of Fame because he meant so much to the game. When you think about guys that go into the Hall of Fame, you can't if you were able to tell a story, you can't pass up Paul Gasol and what he meant to the NBA, especially to the Los Angeles Lakers. So shout out to Paul Gasol.
Well, and you're right. Like, well, first and foremost, like his Memphis days was nothing to sneeze at. Like,
Facts.
like we
Facts.
can't just ignore. Not that you were doing that, but like
Mm-hmm.
he played with Memphis for his first 6, 7 seasons.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
agreed.
6, 7 seasons, and in that stretch, he had numbers of 18-8, 19-9, 20 and
Mm-hmm.
10,
Yep.
20 and 10, assists, blocks, rebounds. His whole career, he averaged 17 points, 9 rebounds, and a little bit over 3 assists for his career.
Yep.
And you know, once the NBA shut down the whole Chris Paul to the Lakers had to revamp and figure out what they wanted to
Figure
do,
it out. Yep.
and they were able to get Pau Gasol to come over to the Lakers and play with Kobe Bryant, and they won 2 championships with him out there as the number 2, number 3 option, depending on the situation. Meta World Peace was out there getting some buckets. Lamar Odom was out there getting buckets as well. Derek Fisher, but it was really the Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol show. Those guys had
Fact.
chemistry that you just can't overlook. I mean, Pau Gasol was one of those first players that you see made the football pass off the
Mm-hmm.
rebound, turn
Bruh.
around, let that thing ride. His
Yes,
brother did
sir.
that a lot too. So, man, we got to respect him. And then, of course, he's one of the 2 former Chicago Bulls. He was one of the players that kept the Bulls relevant during
Facts.
the last couple of years of the Tom Thibodeau, Derrick Rose
Facts.
era. I think he got an All-Star berth out of his time with the Bulls, if I'm not mistaken. His tenure with the Bulls, and he was
Mm-hmm.
just a pro's pro. You never really saw Pau Gasol getting into any off the court drama or on the court drama. And even toward the end of his career, when he ended up with the Milwaukee Bucks, he played another season with the Spurs, I believe. He's another Greg Popovich guy, I guess, if you want to put him in that category. So shout out to Pau Gasol, man, for what he brought to the league. And I agree with you, man. Those European players toward the mid 2000s started kind of changing the way the NBA functioned.
Facts.
And he was one of those guys that pioneered the big man stretching out, hitting big shots, hitting long range shots. I mean, we're not going to disrespect, Rick Schmitz and a couple of other guys in the 90s
Mm-hmm.
that could shoot as well. But hey, these guys came into the league in the 2000s and really started hitting threes at a rate that you didn't see big men doing it at.
Facts. And I just gotta give one more respect to him in this regard. Kobe Bryant, he lost his life. His daughter lost his life alongside her father. And Paul Gasol was out there being the godfather that Kobe Bryant made him out to be, and still supporting the family, still representing for the Bryant family. So I just got to show much love for that too in that regard, because you know what I'm saying? It's not a lot of dudes that's going to come out there and still hold on to the legacy of their brother, or still hold on to the legacy of their godchildren. So shout out to him, because he's still holding on, he's still representing, and he's still holding it down. So shout out to men like that. We got to represent for the men like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now next on this list, we got Powell. We'll just do it in order from left to right. In my perspective, we can go right to Dirk Nowitzki. You know what? Something that was
Man,
crazy about Dirk Nowitzki, Bobby.
bro.
Dirk never really got a cool nickname. I was listening to NBA radio recently, and they were talking about different nicknames, and Dirk never really got a cold nickname. You know how KG was
Facts.
the big ticket. Uh Pau Gasol, I don't know. I guess he never had a good nickname too. I don't know what they called him.
Mm-hmm.
But like Dirk was so lethal in this league, you would have thought they would have called him the one-legged something or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry, what'd you say, Brody?
Oh, yelling at the you did.
I like them. Am I missing something? Hey, we parents, y'all did, so we always gonna have the moments where we just hit the mute button real quick. But Dirk Nowitzki, man, he definitely changed the way you viewed overseas players coming over to this league. This dude is top 10 in scoring. He's unbelievably top 100 historically in steals. This man, he is top 50 in rebounds in his career, like things that people don't think about when it comes to Dirk. But Dirk Nowitzki might have had the hardest trip to the finals, the hardest championship
Woo!
ever won. He beat the San
Bro.
Antonio Spurs. I think he beat
Yes.
the Lakers, and I'm pretty
Yes.
sure the Phoenix Suns was on that list as
Yes.
well. And then they beat the Miami Heat in the finals to get revenge for that final series where the referees called every foul possible for D Wade to shoot 20, 25 free throws a game. But that is what it is over there on that side. Dirk Nowitzki, Jason Terry, JJ Barea, Sean Marion, Tyson Chandler, Jason Kidd, those guys went out there and beat the Heatles. The not one, not two, not three Miami Heat, took care of business, held LeBron to like 15, 16 points a game or something like that. And it was a great thing to see for basketball. Even though this was like in the height of the Tim Donaghy situation where they was, cheating as referees, basketball was still good during that time. And it was great to see Dirk Nowitzki, people who called him soft. Remember, he won the MVP and they lost to the Golden State in the first round. They got swept by Golden State, the Baron Davis and them, and so it was good to see Dirk Nowitzki actually get a championship with the team that didn't draft him, but the team that he played for his entire career, and pretty much go out, as a champion. So shout out to Dirk Nowitzki, man.
Shout out to him, because that playoff run is when he lost his mind. He lost his mind. One of our members on this show, Steve-O Speaks, always talk about Luka Doncic. The way, in order for him to win the championship with the play style that he currently plays, Steve-O always say that he has to lose his mind. In 2011, Dirk lost his mind, beat the Heat in the finals, smoked the Thunder in the playoffs, smoked the Lakers in the playoffs, and waxed the Trailblazers in the playoffs. Come on, y'all. You got to give it up to a guy like that, man.
All those teams had NBA first teamers on there too. All those
That's
teams.
what I'm saying. And you got to give it up to a guy like that in that regard, simply because he came out and performed when it mattered the most. We all talk about the regular season, but when it comes to those conversations, when it comes to who's the greatest of all time and who is just good during the time, we always talk about what did that specific player do when it mattered the most to push all the things in the center of the table and go for the chip. Dirk Nowitzki, bro. He was one of the greats, bro. And he deserves his respect. And you know what I'm saying? He definitely deserves to be a Hall of Famer. So shout out to him and what he was able to do for his time with the Dallas Mavs. And the guy that spent, 20 plus years with the organization, another guy. So shout out to him. He was able to get it done. And though it was one, that one means so much more to so many more people in the city of Dallas. So shout out to him.
Yeah, that one championship that he got carries a lot of weight. And you knew, when I knew that he was going to be, well, obviously we knew he was going to be great, but I knew that he was like really great when you start seeing him come to games with his food wrapped up in aluminum foil. You like, oh, he got him.
That's because he had that black wife.
He got him a sister. So shout out to
he had
Dirk
that black
Nowitzki,
woman.
man.
You know, black women, they gonna put that. It's the food on the plate. They gonna put the paper plate on top and wrap it in foil. His boss.
he was definitely well taken
you
care
already
of.
know.
Yeah. So keeping it going, Coach Greg Popovich, man. Like Greg Popovich, if we're talking about pioneers, first of all, we're talking about a model of consistency, right? Where the San Antonio Spurs, for let's say the last 25 years, closer to 30 years, have been consistent, whether it's constantly making the playoffs or constantly winning 60 games or having Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer, drafting well, developing well, coaching well. You got the transition from David Robinson to Tim Duncan was seamless. From Avery Johnson to Tony Parker was seamless. Bringing in a European player that nobody really knew, Manu Ginobili, and having him turn into a Hall of Fame basketball player was incredible. Like Popovich has, he has Steven Jackson under control. You feel me? He even had DeMar DeRozan out there in San Antonio not gunning. And that's hard to believe as a current Bulls fan. Like we see DeMar DeRozan gunning today, and he went over there for 2 years and didn't gun, had the highest assist total in his career. So looking at and looking at him, he also brought Becky Hammond, who we're going to talk about later, onto his coaching staff. So and the way he treats the media, the way he talks to people, the way he does his post game. So like Greg Popovich is a force to be reckoned with, and of course, what he's done with Team USA basketball can't be ignored either. So like just looking at Greg Popovich's career as a whole, and he's still doing it. Hopefully he can turn Victor Wembanyama into something special. But that remains to be seen. But this 76-year-old dude has a lot left in the tank. and he's entering the Hall of Fame as probably the greatest coach of all time. Like obviously you got Red Auerbach, you got Phil Jackson, you got so on and so forth. But Greg Popovich has a lot on his plate, a lot of accomplishments as a coach, and he definitely deserves his flowers while he's still here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely got to get a man his flowers simply because, just like you alluded to, not what he did and what he has done on the basketball court, but some of the stances that he took off the basketball court, going to the media and voicing his opinion on certain issues that have plagued and damaged the image or the reputation of this country, and not being afraid of it and speaking his mind. You got to give it to him for that, and then being able to pass the torch amongst multiple players throughout his years of coaching and seeing spectacular performances. You know what I'm saying? Though a lot of people harp on Kawhi Leonard and what he's been, as of late, we know that Kawhi Leonard with the San Antonio Spurs was a dog to be
Hmm.
paired with before he was out of there. Tim Duncan, you had mentioned. David Robson, you have mentioned, and so many others that you have mentioned. You got to show your respect to one of the greatest coaches of all time. Some people will go ahead and give that nod to Phil Jackson. I wouldn't argue, you know what I'm saying? Whichever way you go ahead and give it to whoever you give it to. But there is no discussion of the greatest coaches in this league without mentioning Greg Popovich, and I understand why.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. All right, so Greg Popovich, man, salute to you for everything that you've done for the game of basketball and everything that you'll continue doing for the game of basketball. All right, so next on the list, we got a Greg Popovich guy, which I heard a story that was really cool. Every player that Greg Popovich as coach, every Hall of Fame player has gone into the Hall of Fame before him. So in tonight's airing of the Hall of Fame inductees, Tony Parker is going to go in before Greg Popovich to keep that trend going. And I think that's cool. Like he gets to watch one of his players go into the Hall of Fame, and Tony Parker, dude, like, man, Tony Parker was something special to
Yes.
see on the basketball court. Undersized, your regular typical point guard, maybe 6'1" at best, with shoes on, maybe 6'3". But listen, dude, like his float game was sensational. When Derrick Rose got hurt, I was like, man, he needs to go watch some Tony Parker highlights, some Tony Parker tape if he's trying to stay in the league for a long time. He got to get his float game up.
Yep.
This dude came onto a team that was already really good and made them better.
Yep.
Made them better. And he pulled Eva Longoria at the height of Desperate Housewives fame. She was, you know how it
Yep.
was, bro. Like this is before, Facebook and Twitter and all of that. So like it was
Uh-huh.
cool to see a basketball player get one of the baddest people in entertainment
Oh,
on his
bro.
squad. So, it was kind of sucky to see him not finish his career as a San Antonio Spur to be on the Charlotte Hornets. That was kind of odd. But what he brought to the table, man, he got a finals MVP. He was very instrumental in the finals that the Spurs did beat the Heat on. I remember there's a stretch where he fell, got up, still hit a shot with like as the shot clock was running out in a clutch situation while the Spurs were only up by a couple of points to seal
Mhm.
that game, and eventually it go on to win that series versus the Miami Heat. And just seeing him be a great leader on the floor, surrounded by other leaders, it was
Right.
incredible to see, man.
It was definitely incredible to see, especially, you know what I'm saying, when we talk about them going against the Miami Heat in their older years, you know what I'm saying, during their NBA careers, they was a lot older when they went against the Miami Heat. But the foundation that was built and the culture that was built allowed them to beat a team that a lot of people thought was unbeatable in the Miami Heat. They were able to do that. And if it wasn't for a shot from Ray Allen that was heard around the world, they could have won another one against the Heatles.
Mm.
So you got to give them much respect in that regard. Me personally, one thing that I hate that had happened is when Tony Parker spent that 1 year with Charlotte. He should have played his final season with the San Antonio Spurs and finished his season as a career San Antonio Spur. But unfortunately, it is business. Things don't always go as planned. So, but at the end of the day, you still got to show your respect to one of the greatest point guards in the NBA. The numbers might not pop out to so many people, but you still got to show your respect to one of the greatest to ever do it, no matter how you put him or no matter where you rank him on your list. He's definitely one of the Hall of Famers and one of the great point guards in this game.
Well, we already know that in the Spurs, in certain Spurs players, they all could have been somewhere else putting up monster numbers. Monty Ginobili was like a six man his whole career. And
Bruh,
he could have been a
crazy, right?
starter on, yeah, he could have been a starter on any team. Same thing with Tony Parker. He could have been a focal point on any team and averaged 25 plus points a game.
Yep.
So like
Mm-hmm.
clearly the numbers, even Tim Duncan, like even with Tim Duncan winning MVPs and everything, he still could have done more. Those guys sacrificed for their coach, Greg Popovich, and for each other. And I'm glad to see that they're able to make it to the pinnacle of individual success. Besides like MVPs and everything, but the Hall of
Facts.
Fame, getting that jacket is important, which brings
Yep.
us to Robin's very own. I don't say Chicago's very own. I'm one of those people that's like, nigga, you from the suburbs, all back. All back, my guy. Robbins ain't nothing to sneeze at either, though. But Dwayne Wade or Dwanye Wade, that's how you spell his name. Dwayne Wade, man. Like when this kid was at Marquette killing in college, you're like, man, who is that? And it bothers me because he is a former Bull, just like Pau Gasol. But the Bulls had an opportunity to draft him in that '03 draft. They ended up with Kirk Heinrich, and shout out to Captain Kirk. But the Bulls were this close to drafting him, and then they were this close to getting him in that whole situation where him, D Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh decided to play for the Heat. And then he eventually came to the Bulls when he was pretty much on his last leg, got a $50 million deal for no reason, in my opinion, and played for his hometown team. But aside from all of that, winning that championship as a youngster with Shaq as his sidekick, because some people like to say that Shaq was still yada yada yada. He wasn't. Shaq was a shell of his former self by the time he got to the Heat. He wasn't putting up 30 and 20s. He's putting up more like 15 and 8s, so on and so forth. That was impressive. Even though I feel like the referees favored him a little bit in that series versus Dallas, you still got to go out there and perform. And then watching him not cower in the spotlight known as LeBron James. Like he was still an alpha out
Yep.
there on that court with LeBron James. It was 1A and 1B. 1B and 1A. Hey, you who you are, him who I am, and we're gonna go out there and take care of business.
Facts.
So watching them go out there and do what they did for the Heat was very impressive. And then even when he went back to the Heat and they had his farewell tour, hit some nice game-winning shots. I think it was against Phoenix. He hit that crazy shot where he lost the ball. It came back to him. He shot it off
Mm-hmm.
one leg and hit the three. Or the shot that he hit against the Bulls in the United States, jumped on the scores table talking about this is my city. That made me salty a little bit because you ain't from Chicago, my guy. But it is what it is. But shout out to D Wade, man. He pulled himself out the mud, and turned himself into a Hall of Fame NBA player. Shout out to my guy.
Shout out to him for sure. Definitely in the top 5 of shooting guards all time, not just in today's league. You know what I'm saying? Even though he's not playing, but definitely shout out to him as one of the top 5 shooting guards in all of NBA history. You definitely got to put him up in there. Me personally, I love what he was able to do. Love what he was able to do. Not the greatest from the 3-point line, but able to attack the basket, able to get guys on that nice, slick, smooth pump fake all the time. And if you was caught lacking, he'll dunk one on your head. That championship run that he had with Shaq was one of the it was online with one of the great performances in the finals. Those performances is what you ask superstars to do when everything matters, when everything counts. He was able to go ahead and eclipse that and make sure that he captured his first championship at a young age next to Shaquille O'Neal. So you just got to give him his respect. And then even after that, though he did not make another finals until LeBron came over there, he was still an intricate part of what the Miami Heat was trying to do and embrace the Heat culture. And it's one of the reasons why now in today's NBA, we see Jimmy Butler, Udonis Haslem still embracing the culture. Young guys, Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, et cetera. Players that came through in and came out of the Miami Heat team and still embrace that culture of hard nose. We gonna stick defense. We gonna be tough. It's gonna be hard to beat us. You ain't got no choice. But if you gonna be in our way, we gonna knock your ass down. He was one of those pioneers for that type of culture within the Miami Heat organization, and he's a big part of why that tradition and that culture still lives on today. So shout out to D Wade, Chicago's very own. Even if he is from the suburbs, we got to still show love to our surrounding, area people for sure.
Yes, sir. So we're not gonna hold y'all, man. Becky Hammond is also being inducted. We already know what she's accomplished for the WNBA, the New York Liberty, the Las Vegas Aces current head coach, being the first female assistant coach in the history of the NBA. All the accolades that she has. Shout out to her, man. One of the top 15 WNBA players of all time, and she fine too, bro. I'm gonna just be honest. Man, something about that love in basketball. You need. And then we got Gene Katie as well, former head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers for 25 years. If you don't remember him, he was a little bit chubby, had this slick across hair. Hair was like he just woke up and licked his hand and slicked his hair back. It is what it is, but he definitely got a lot of Big Ten championships, a bunch of coaches of the year for college basketball, and then of course Jim Valvino, who's completely responsible for the he lost his life in a battle to cancer, and ESPN and him and his foundation, the Jimmy V Foundation, they do a lot for cancer research every single year. If you don't know who Jim Valvano is, check him out. Google him. My man is very instrumental into the basketball landscape, into the world of cancer. And then, of course, we have the 1976 U.S. Olympics team, women's Olympics team. They won a silver medal in a situation where it just didn't look like the U.S. had a chance. Y'all go ahead and research them. Then we had Gene Best and David Hickson as coaches as well. One of them was a coach for Division III. Did a lot for that landscape of basketball as well, man. So, hey, man, not Steve Bobby. It's crazy, man. It's like a
Yes,
part of my
sir.
it's like a part of my childhood, bro. Like I remember watching Dirk and
Yep.
D Wade and Pau Gasol and all these guys get drafted to their original teams, play for different teams throughout their career, with the exception of Dirk, of course, and just become a part of the fabric and the DNA of basketball. It was great talking to you about these guys, man.
Yes, sir. Definitely appreciate it. Hey, just want to show the respect to all those that made it into the hall. And I can't wait to see the ones that's coming up next. I heard that next year's list is definitely going to be something that you want to be looking forward to. And you got some more players on there that you definitely can have a conversation about. Definitely love to talk about and what they brought to the game. And that's just what keeps it going, man. These guys and these people that go ahead and contribute to basketball. And much respect to Becky Hammond, man. She definitely has done a lot of things that I respect for sure. And definitely congratulations to all the ones that made it into the hall for sure.
Yes, sir. We appreciate y'all. Keep rocking with the Central family. Y'all already know football season starting. Basketball season is coming up real soon. Hockey is in play. The Chicago Blackhawks Central is in full swing. And the Cubs looking like they might make the playoffs, Bobby. So don't forget to rock with us on Chicago White Sox and Cubs Central too, man. We got it going for all the Chicago squads. We're not going to hold y'all. We appreciate y'all for rocking with us. Peace.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.